Hello and welcome to iCatholic. I'm Wendy Grace. I'm joined now by Patricia Carroll and she is part of the Synod task force here in Ireland. She's going to be talking to us a little bit about what's happening as part of this process. Patricia, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Wendy. Nice to be here.
So the first thing that I wanted to ask you to explain for us, in terms of the Synod process, we're in what's called the continental phase. But what is that?
Well, it's the next phase in preparation for the bigger meeting that's going to happen in 2024. And basically it's all the continents of the world gathering together to discern further how they're going to become synodal. And so it's an important phase, and there'll be a meeting at Prague where that's going to kind of start to gel together.
That's going to get the ball rolling on that process. So people might be thinking, okay, 2024, that's still a little bit away. What can we be doing in the interim? I mean, is there things that we've learned so far as part of the Synod process that we can say, okay, we can apply some of the learnings here in Ireland today?
Yeah, well, in this actual phase of the continental synodal way, what we're looking at is how can we practically action priorities that have come through the parishes and through the dioceses of the world. And so there are lots of things that we can actually practically action right now, but not waiting for the 2024 meeting.
So what are some of the things that you're looking at then?
Well, if you look at some of the feedback from parishes and dioceses, particularly in Ireland, but worldwide, the example of decision making is a big one. And of course, parish councils are supposed to be leadership groups that discern prayerfully together about pastoral decisions. So this is an opportunity now to actually reactivate them, rethink what they're about, move away from perhaps being business-looking meetings towards discerning forums that can start to practically action things on the ground.
That's no easy task though, is it, Patricia, in terms of, let's say, to take your example of a parish pastoral council that's maybe been operating in a particular way for a long time, and it takes a big change of heart and mind to say, how can we be more synodal? So, how do you get that process moving in that direction?
I think it's about training and formation too, and being on a journey together. There's something about that. And maybe making a commitment to do everything that we do in a synodal way. And that's a whole learning process for all of us.
When you say a synodal way, what does that mean to you?
Synodal way is about prayerfully gathering, listening to each other to understand, and then coming to decisions about what we do emerging out of that.
It strikes me as it's something that we have to really pray for in terms of wisdom and humility, because it's not about my way, it's about working together, isn't it? And discerning together.
It is, and it's also about trusting that the Spirit of God speaks in the people of God when we're gathered.
Yes, when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, as Jesus said. Just, Patricia, in terms of, I like how you're kind of applying it to just an everyday example, the synodal way to pastoral councils. But is there other things in Ireland that are already happening within the church that you can look at and say, well, actually, we can apply some processes of this synod to what we're already doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, the issue of women came up at parish level, diocesan level, national level and continental level. And, a more focused role for women in leadership and ministry. But if you go to the average parish, you'll see that women are already leading all sorts of things. Examples like children's liturgy group, family masses, presidents of different groups, chairs of pastoral councils, and so on. But I think now we're in a new phase where we need to consider practically grounding that in these new instituted ministries that Pope Francis has spoken about last year, the instituted ministry of reader, the instituted ministry of catechist, and so on, so that women's ministries start to become more formalised. And we can do that now without waiting till 2024.
I know, of course, Patricia, that a lot of your work outside of the Synod is to do with ministry and mission of the Church, especially in the Archdiocese of Dublin. When you think about that role and the work that you're trying to do to assist parishes, how has the Synod influenced that role?
Well, in our own Diocese of Dublin, we've got a process called Building Hope, but we're making a strong commitment to build hope in a synodal way. And so that means then that local communities are asked to gather and prayerfully consider the way forward. And we've been doing that now, so that the synodal path is not a separate path, so that it's the same path that we're on together. And that's mapped out in lots of dioceses all over Ireland, where they have pastoral processes of renewal that are ongoing, but the commitment now is to do this in a synodal way.
So to the average kind of lay person listening that's saying, okay, I'm involved in my parish in whatever element of the ministry, how do I bring the synodal way into what my gifts and how I'm sharing with my local parish?
Well, I think that it's about community, it's about sharing, it's about listening to each other, it's about prayerfully considering and then making discerning choices together about actions and where we can use our energies best. And that's definitely got the synodal flavour about it.
In your involvement, Patricia, so far as being part of the synodal task force here in Ireland, what has been the thing that has kind of resonated or struck you the most?
I think that people are committed to this journey, and that there were many folks who've felt that they weren't able to maybe speak to each other, and that maybe they'd hit a brick wall with church, and now there's a lot of hope in the horizon because people feel that there's a pathway opening up for them. So huge hope for people, I think.
Yeah, which is so encouraging, I think, for people that are watching and listening to this discussion. So what's the way forward? What happens next for you now in your work, Patricia?
In my work is just that continuing to enable people to work in that synodal fashion, to understand that we're on a journey together as church, and we're not able to predict that end point of that journey. And in fact, if we take on synodality in the way that Pope Francis is asking us to do, that this synodal way of doing things will just be the way we do things in church going forward into the future.
It'll just become natural, hopefully.
That's right, that's right.
Finally, just to ask you, because you've mentioned hope a few times, Patricia, are you hopeful for the future of the church in Ireland?
I'm very hopeful for the future of the church in Ireland. I think that the Spirit is actively working in all of our parish communities. Our communities might be smaller in the future, but I think there's still going to be those faith-filled gatherings of people who are just trying to listen to what the Spirit is indicating for our times. And of course that connects into what Pope Francis has said often. We're not in an era of change in the church now, we're in a change of era.
It's a great way of putting it. Well, Patricia, thank you so much for joining us on iCatholic today. It's been lovely talking to you. And thank you for joining us. And we will keep you up to date with all things in relation to the Synod. So make sure you keep an eye on our social media channels and, of course, the website at iCatholic.ie. Thanks so much for joining us on iCatholic today. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.